Eddie Hearns between me, I'd have bust your ass. But I got a date with your mom anyway.
He's talked about taking your mom out on a date. Like, he's crossing territory. That's what he said today. He said he wants to take your mom out on a date.
Welcome back to Fighting Words. I'm Karisa Maxwell, joined as always by my co-host Andreas Hale. Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrates and an early Happy New Year. 2023 was a very exciting year for boxing. There is a lot of things that we got and still some things that we did not. So we're going to dedicate this week's episode to going over all of the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful things that happened in boxing in 2023 and what we can look forward to in 2024. So Andreas, let's start by talking about things that we did get. We went into 2023 with a wish list of fights we wanted to see, and some of them actually happened. Some of them years in the making actually happened. So let's start with, of course, the number one fight, Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr., a fight that we waited for 5 years for. I kind of lost count, but that finally happened. Did that fight live up to the expectation, and how happy as a fan, as someone who works in the sport, were you to actually see that fight come to fruition?
I mean, I was happy. I was thrilled. It was a fight we were waiting for. The best rarely fight the best. We always got politics, and that fight took forever to happen. Did it go the way that I thought? Hell no. I did not predict Terrence Crawford beating the hell out of Errol Spence the way that he did. I don't think anybody did. If you did, if you're watching this, you're a liar. You're a liar if you saw Terrence Crawford bulldozing Errol Spence. Nobody saw that happening. That was a 50-50 fight to the highest degree. Some people picked Terrence Crawford. That's cool. But saying that the fight was going to go the way that it went, absolutely not. But I'm glad we got it. And for once, fight fans were happy. It felt like it came at the right time. I know some people said that, maybe Errol's a little past his prime because of the car accident. But look, man, the fight happened. We didn't think it was going to happen. We thought it was dead in the water. And then it resurfaced. It got made. It was huge. We were there. Everybody was there. They wore Black Air Force Ones. It was all about violence. It was an incredible, incredible spectacle. I'm glad we got it. So one of the true gifts that boxing gets that really helped elevate 2023.
It was definitely a highlight for me, for you, for boxing fans, but it wasn't the only fight that we get. What are some other fights that come to mind that were on our wish list that we finally got to see this year?
It wasn't necessarily on my wish list, but it happened. Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. Mm-hmm. That was a fight that I thought it was going to take a couple of years because, we like to wait for fights to marinate. It didn't marinate. It ended up happening. It was a true spectacle. Again, we were there. It was an incredible sight. Every celebrity, everybody was out for this fight. And then Tank just knocked out Ryan Garcia and proved that there are levels to this. But that is one of the fights that I didn't think was going to happen. I thought it was too soon for it to happen. But Ryan Garcia, credit to him, he went out of his way to make sure that fight was going to happen. And we got it. And it ended up being one of the biggest pay-per-views ever. It ended up being cracking, I believe, the top 10 biggest gates ever in Las Vegas for two young fighters with no titles on the line. That was incredible. Another fight was Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko. I wasn't sure we were going to get that fight. Controversial ending aside, I thought Devin Haney won by the skin of his teeth. Some people did not. Nevertheless, that was an opportunity where we got to see one of the young, great fighters face a pound-for-pound king at one point, who's the greatest amateur fighter of all time, in May. It was just a few weeks after Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. That was special. David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. We got that this year. And it was a grudge match that David Benavidez proved that he's one of the best in the world. I'll continue to say it over and over again. He's a frightening human being, but we got that fight made. Boxing has been good to us. Naoya Inoue and Stephen Fulton happened this year. That was an incredible fight. Like, Chris, I think you get what I'm saying. Like, we got a lot of fights that we wanted to see happen this year, but I know the flip side of this. What didn't we get, right?
Well, I'll get to that, but I would also like to say that I think we got some coal in our stocking, if we will, with fights that happened that we didn't want to see, had no desire to see, and should not have happened. And I know I can name a few, but I want to know what's the first fight that comes to mind that we just did not need to see this year.
I mean, for me personally, it was Canelo and Charlo. That the fight is the one that immediately comes to mind. I know some people was like, well, we wanted to see Canelo and Charlo. I didn't want to see him versus little Charlo, and that fight sucked. Nobody wanted it necessarily. It happened. It should have been David Benavidez. It wasn't. It was Jermell Charlo against Canelo, and an absolute stinker that Canelo dominated. That's the one fight that immediately comes to mind. The other one that comes to mind that we didn't want, but for a different reason, was Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. I wanted it for Francis Ngannou, right? I wanted him to get the bag because all you UFC fans saying that Francis Ngannou fumbled the bag, he proved you wrong. But what we didn't get, the reason why I didn't want that fight to happen is because we wanted Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk was a fight that we wanted. But we ended up getting that fight instead. There's not it wasn't a year of just like terrible matchmaking. We didn't get a whole lot of fights that we didn't necessarily ask for, but those are the ones that come to mind immediately.
Well, Tyson Fury is ultimately the reason why a lot of fights that we wanted to happen didn't happen. And again, we will get more into that. But Fury Ngannou was a fight that came to mind for me too. And for the reasons you said, we wanted Fury Usyk. We're allegedly going to finally get Fury Usyk in 2024, but Ngannou has kind of shaken things up to where now there's fights we do want to see him in. So I'm sure he'll probably make our wish list for 2024. But before we move on to that, if you had to put an overall grade on the year for 2023, how would you rate this year, this era in boxing?
A B plus. And now some people will say, why didn't I give it an A? Well, it's because we didn't get Fury and Usyk, and we need room to grow. We didn't get Canelo versus David Benavidez. Other than that, though, this is one of the best years in fights being made in boxing. Unfortunately, with Showtime getting out of the boxing business and now PBC heading over to Amazon, it's going to be interesting to see how things happen in 2024. But this is a year, if you're a fight fan, you pretty much got everything you wanted. Look, I make a Christmas list. As a kid, I made one every year. There was a few Nintendo games I didn't get. There was a few video games I didn't get. Does it mean Christmas sucked? No. But as long as you get a majority of the fights that you asked for, that you wanted, and maybe a few that you didn't expect to happen, and they end up happening, that's a B plus year. Just, I need room to grow, so I'm going to stay away from an A.
The fights that we did get, however, I spent the morning going through some of our old Fighting Words episodes because I was just curious to know how you did this year with your predictions. And if we had to put together, let's say, like a naughty, nice list of the things you got right and the things that you got terribly, terribly wrong, some of them are pretty funny. I'm sure our fans remember you owing Tom Gray, our other co-host, $100 for making a bet on Spence Crawford. But there are a few others, and I will happily hold you accountable. But I just want to know, what predictions keep you up at night that you got wrong, that you got right, and what if we could expect better predictions from you in 2024.
Yo, boxing is a wild sport. Look, I picked Errol Spence to beat Terrence Crawford by like a unanimous decision, like 115, 113. Boy, could I have not been more wrong about that fight. And that's the fight that you're referencing that I owe Tom $100. I mean, look, man, somebody had to win that damn fight. Just didn't go like that, but I was wrong. Another one, I think most of us picked Tyson Fury to actually absolutely destroy Francis Ngannou. Yeah, it didn't happen. I don't know what Tyson Fury was thinking that night, but things happen. We get fights wrong from time to time. I know I picked Katie Taylor to lose in the rematch with Chantel Cameron. I picked it right the first time, at least. I got Chantel Cameron right the first time, but I thought it was going to be more definitive the second time around. Nope. Katie Taylor looked phenomenal in the rematch and got the upper hand and won the fight. I mean, it wasn't a blowout, but I thought she did very well. But yeah, you get some right, you get some wrong. Chris, hold me accountable. What am I missing? Is there anything I'm missing?
You did predict that Shakur Stevenson would punish Edwin De Los Santos and put on a stellar performance, and instead he put everybody to sleep. But he did win. Yeah. At least you got the winner right for that one. Let's see. I mean, honestly, there's a bunch of things that I wouldn't even say you got wrong, but that just went ways that we weren't expecting. I mean, even if we look back at the Ryan Garcia Tank Davis fight, I think we all thought that fight was, when we looked, it was like 60-40 split, 50-50 split. Everything was going to be so close, and Tank dominated that fight. So I think there were a lot of good, happy surprises as well. But let's look at 2024, because I ask you this question every single year. And as we stated at the beginning of this episode, sometimes we get what we want and Santa pulls through, and then other times we don't. So a lot of these fights that you're about to name, I know are carryovers from last year and some even the year before. I'm going to start off by, again, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. That fight we wanted to see in 2023 It's happening in 2024. And I, of course, say that with a little bit of a pause because we've been burned before. But that fight is actually scheduled, set to happen. Joshua Wilder. We finally got to see them fight on the same card in 2023, just not each other. And now the rumor is that that fight is actually happening. So those two fights aside for, let's just, for our own sanity, say that they are absolutely happening in 2024. What other matchups are on your wish list for the new year?
David Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez. I don't know how many more damn times I got to say this. The fight has to happen. I know Canelo's going to say everything. He doesn't duck people, blah, blah, blah. This man has done everything humanly possible to fight you without completely disrespecting you and slapping you upside the head. Give the man the fight. Canelo versus David Benavidez for the undisputed super middleweight champion absolutely has to happen next year. Another fight that I think should happen. Find a way to make it happen because, look, man, these young fighters, they don't have time to waste. They want to get fights done now. Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis. I really want this fight to happen. Devin Haney has made a case as one of the young fighters who has fought everyone possible that they could put in front of him. And now he's calling out Gervonta Davis. He's called out Teofimo Lopez. I'd like to see that fight too. The Shakur Stevenson thing is a little funky. I think I don't know who's running from who here, but I feel like Devin Haney is due for a very big fight in 2024. And why shouldn't it be against Tank Davis? As great as Tank Davis is, the argument that we all have is, who has he fought? Look, I'm not trying to disrespect Ryan Garcia, but there was no world titles on the line. There's really no pound for pound status on the line. You fight Devin Haney, who now has a belt at 140 pounds. That is a big fight that you can argue could be potentially for the face of boxing. So make that happen. And the fight, whoever doesn't get that fight, if Devin Haney ends up fighting Teofimo Lopez instead, do Tank and Shakur. I don't care. These young fighters all need to fight each other. At least one of those fights need to happen in 2024. The other fight that I want to see made, Dmitry Bivol or Turbetbiev for the undisputed light heavyweight championship. They kind of circled each other last year. Bivol came off the big win against Canelo Alvarez. Looked like it get close to being made. I know they were in Saudi Arabia together. Make the fight happen in 2024. I don't know if it's for sure going to happen, but it feels like it has to happen. I'm trying to think of one other fight.
I have one, and it actually goes back to my last question as far as things you maybe got wrong. We had an entire episode dedicated to the social media rumors and insinuation that there was a potential fight between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. You quite literally laughed at it. You said, absolutely not. There's no way. Stop. You yelled at the camera. You yelled at fans telling them, stop the nonsense. And now I feel like that is just something that's bound to happen between different boxing reporters or insiders or even fighters talking about the potential of that fight happening in 2024. Is that a fight that we should legitimately see, that you want to see? And are you kind of putting your foot in your mouth now that is actually a fight that could happen?
Man, it's crazy because Terence Crawford would have to jump up 21 pounds to fight Canelo Alvarez. I still think it's nuts. But the fact that Crawford is willing to do it as no longer the undisputed welterweight champion, but if he's willing to do it and Canelo's willing to do it, if he's not going to fight David Benavidez, that's the only fight that I would accept. Who the hell am I, right? Like the only fight I'll accept, whatever. But that's the only fight that I would accept if Canelo doesn't fight David Benavidez. Fight Terence Crawford at 168 pounds. It just sounds so ridiculous. But the more I think about it, and the more I look at Canelo's recent performances, and the more I look at what Terence Crawford has done, the meanest man in boxing, if that's what that man wants, give it to him. Maybe he proves us all wrong. When Manny Pacquiao moved up multiple weight classes to fight Oscar De La Hoya, a lot of people laughed at Manny Pacquiao for making that weight jump. I didn't. I picked Manny Pacquiao to win that fight. And he ended up brutalizing and retiring Oscar De La Hoya. Could a similar situation happen with Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez? Maybe. Look, Canelo's no spring chicken, but actually Terence Crawford is older. But I will say that Terence Crawford has more to give than Canelo at this stage in his career. He looks like he's in peak physical shape. Could he make it 168 pounds? He'd probably come in underweight. But if that fight gets made, yeah, I'll put my foot in my mouth and I'll accept it with a smile on my face. Give me that in 2024 if you don't make the Benavidez fight.
Well, there's no better time to put on 21 pounds in the holiday season. So you get started now. I know we want to see Taylor Serrano too in the new year. And that fight it's bound to happen. It's just a matter of when. But would you have any interest in seeing a Taylor Cameron trilogy fight?
No, but if you're asking me for a women's fight that I do want to see, that I'm very interested in, and it just started bubbling up on social media recently, Alicia Baumgartner and Clarissa Shields. Now, they're friends, and then Alicia Baumgartner went on social media, granted the whole drug thing aside. If it all gets cleared up, Alicia said, I will knock Clarissa Shields out. Alicia has a punch. There is a lot of appeal in that fight. I would love to see those two go at it because the argument against Clarissa Shields right now, for anybody who doesn't have her number one pound for pound, is that she hasn't fought the best competition, which I think is factually incorrect. However, fighting Alicia Baumgartner, who was a undisputed champion, that's another feather in the cap for Clarissa Shields if she can get the job done. That's a fight that I do want to see. Taylor Cameron, I don't know. It should happen, but I'm not as hyped about it because I've already seen it twice. Taylor Shields, I'm interested in. But Alicia Baumgartner, Clarissa Shields is the fight that needs to be made.
All right. Well, 2024 will be here before you know it, and we will see. And there's been a lot of issues. There's been a lot of problems. There's been a lot of highs and lows with boxing in 2023. So as we go into the new year, looking forward to all of these fights that are made, that we hope gets made. If you had to look at the things that went wrong, you mentioned drugs, with the PEDs that have kept fighters out. You've mentioned fights not getting made. There's been issues between fighters and trainers and promoters and all of the political BS that goes into making fights happen. So we go into 2024 with positive vibes, positive energy. What do you think should be boxing's New Year's resolution?
All right, Oscar De La Hoya, stop beefing with your fighters. Let's start there. Listen, you already beefed with Canelo. Now you're getting into it, Ryan. Stop beefing with your fighters and stay off social media as a whole. I'm tired of seeing Oscar on social media. I'd rather him just put fights together that fans want to see. Don't talk about it on social media. Don't blame other fighters. Don't stop talking about Canelo. You sound like an ex-girlfriend. Leave the man alone. He's moved on. You move on. You have your Ryan, right? Focus on that man, Virgil Ortiz and Jaime Munguia. Those are your three fighters. And get the job done with them. Don't disrespect them on social media. Get out of here. Cut it out. I want more trash talk to lead to fights. Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis are now going out on social media, and they both said, bet, book it, book the damn fight. Stop talking about it. I don't want to hear it anymore. Promoters get together. You see these two going at it. There is money to be made. Cha-ching. Let's do it. If you're going to talk about it, be about it. Make the fights happen. I'm not blaming Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis. I feel like you should talk trash on social media. It's a good way of marketing. But that's what you guys need to do is make the fights happen after the trash talk. I hope boxing gets that together. Also, one thing that I do want to see change is a lot of the tribalism in boxing. I see a lot of people that dislike PBC. I see a lot of people that dislike Top Rank. I see a lot of people that dislike Golden Boy. Just love boxing, dude. Cut it out. You don't need to pick a side. Ain't nobody paying you to pick a side. You don't have to love the zone and hate ESPN. Like it's stupid. Just enjoy boxing, getting the fights that you want to see. Let's get them done. Look, if Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder can get together and have a fight that's like now 6 years in the making, another fight I want to see. I want to see Anthony Joshua and Jarrell Big Baby Miller finally happen because Big Baby broke the multiverse by taking all the drugs in the world and blowing it, and Joshua ended up losing to Ruiz and blew everything up. Get that fight made because once upon a time I sat on the couch with Anthony Joshua and told him that Big Baby wanted to take his mom out for a date and things kind of happened. So can we get some finality to that story? Finally. And if we can we roll that clip?
Listen, AJ, you sweet and low, you cotton candy, you apple jacks, apple juice, pansy, throwing wearing sucker. You lucky Eddie Hearn's between me. I'd have bust your ass. But I got a date with your mom anyway.
He's talked about taking your mom out on a date. Like he's crossing territory. That's what he said today. He said he wants to take your mom out on a date. When you hear stuff like that, what does that make you think?
Come say it to my face.
Chris, that was 5 years ago, maybe 6.
I know. I thought about that heading into the December 23rd card. I thought about that moment. And, I am always the first one to blame Tyson Fury for the heavyweight division's problems. But you're right. Everything that has prevented these major fights from happening, that's completely derailed what was once an obvious path for a undisputed, unified heavyweight champion, is Jarrell Miller. And him crashing the DAZN press conference in 2019, calling out Anthony Joshua, calling him a cotton candy, apple jacks, apple juice, pansy thong-wearing sucker. That's right, I have it memorized. And then saying that he would love to kick his ass right then and there, but he can't because he's got to take his mom out on a date. That is the moment that completely derailed the heavyweight division. And you're right. We need to close this story. This epic 5-year-long story needs closure. So I am 1,000% right there with you. We need to see Anthony Joshua and Jarrell Big Baby Miller. 2024 is going to be a good year. We're excited to be back, bringing you more fighting words here on Sporting News. And to have a very happy holiday season. Happy New Year's. Be safe out there. We will see you in the new year. I'm Karisa Maxwell for Andreas Hale. Thanks for watching Fighting Words and happy 2024.